To import your previous segmentation, you have to go to File, Import, STL, choose the STL file, import STL. Now, to reduce the size of the geometry, we want to remove double vertices. For that, you go to the bottom of the screen, switch to Edit mode, which you can also do by pressing Tab on your keyboard. Then deselect all, or press A on your keyboard. Then Mesh, Vertices, remove doubles. Now we want to center the object to the middle of the screen. For that, you have to make sure that the cursor is centered. Go on View Properties. On 3D Cursor, make sure the X, Y, and Z are set to 0. Then on Object Mode, Object, Transform, Center Cursor, and again, Transform, Update it to Center. Don't forget to save frequently, what you can do by doing Ctrl and W on your keyboard. Now we start to create materials. For that, on Panels, Link and Materials, press on New as many times you want to create the number of materials you want. Here I want 5 materials. Then you can choose the color to differentiate them. This is what will allow you to distinguish your myocardium from the ventricles or the septum. Now we want to prepare our geometry for the material assignment. For that, you need to be back on Edit mode. Then deselect everything, which you can also do by pressing A. We want to select the faces, which is represented by this triangle, and we want to turn on Occlude Background Geometry with the cube. First, we will assign the myocardium. So determine which part of the geometry corresponds to the myocardium. Here seems good. On Edit mode, you can zoom in to have a better sight on the surfaces. To select, maintain Ctrl button pressed, and with the left click of your mouse, draw the area you want to be selected. Translate the geometry by maintaining the Shift button and middle click. Select again the wanted area, and do it over and over again. To assign the material you want, here is the red one corresponding to the myocardium. Just press Assign on the panel. When you go back on Edit mode, the Assign area is now red. Here I don't want all the surface assigned. I only want to assign the myocardium from the apex to the base. So I try to figure out where the base is, like here. Then I select the area until this limit that I defined as the base. A little trick here is that you always can switch between the Edit mode and the Object modes to have a better view on what you're doing. It is important to rotate the geometry to make sure all the faces have been assigned. In the end, don't forget to assign all what you selected to the material. Now that I have the myocardium assigned, I want to hide it in order to assign the rest of the geometry. For that, I select all the red material and press H. I see there are some faces that were not properly assigned, so I select those faces and assign them to the red material. When I'm happy with the assigned myocardium, I also want to hide the myocardium in the Object mode to have the same layout in both modes. For that, you have to turn on the transparency on Object and press in Trans. Then on Shading, you have to turn on the material buttons and set alpha to 0 through this cursor. Now we can distinguish both ventricles. Now we will focus on the right ventricle. Again, we only want to go until the base. So I'll switch again to the Edit mode and select the area that I want. Don't forget to change the material to have a different one from the myocardium. Remember, you can play with hiding materials with the transparency on object mode or pressing H on edit mode to have a better view on your material. Here, I see that there is a whole surface on the top that is not supposed to be assigned. So deselect everything on edit mode, select the surface that I don't want to be green and assign it back to gray. Once I'm happy with this material, I can hide it on edit mode and make it transparent on object mode to go further with the septum part of the right ventricle. Again, I select the area that I think is the septum and assign it to the material I want. Then, I isolate the surface to see what was assigned by mistake, and I assign them back to the gray material. Once I'm happy with that, I prepare to move on with the septum part of the left ventricle. For that, I don't make the previous material transparent in the object mode in order to determine where the septum part of the left ventricle should be. However, in edit mode I still hide the previous material to be able to select the right surface. I forgot to create a material before, but I am creating now. Then I select the area that corresponds to the left ventricle and assign it to this new material. For this time, I hide all the previous assigned materials in both edit and object mode to have only the left ventricle part left. In the end, we will have all this gray part left that we did not assign and that we don't want in our geometry. By selecting the gray part and hide everything but that, then select all by pressing A, and to delete, you have to press X and choose Faces. Then again with the edges. Now unhide everything and you have your data separated in the left ventricle, the right ventricle, the septum, and the myocardium.